So I do want to spend a bulk of time at the end talking about how do we actually fight this stuff and how do we fix it and things like that. So we've talked about video games and we've talked about sort of the social media component of this. I think the other part online that everybody knows about, but we don't really talk about, is the amount of porn that's online. There is obviously an absurd amount of porn, and I think that probably any of us that have ever watched porn have thought, in retrospect, we probably could have been doing more productive things. Where does that fit into the equation here?
Well, I mean, the clients that we're working with, of course, are used to being isolated in a room in front of a screen. So it could be computers, it could be video gaming, it could be pleasure activities such as YouTube, and also porn. So they're, you know, stimulating themselves through movies, through, you know, Pornhub or all these sites that are up there, and it's free. So basically, it is also a term that is called addiction, sex addiction. And, you know, basically, of course, everybody has seen porn in some sort of way, but I think we're over flooded by this material, which makes, with the clients that we're talking to, that they are being afraid of connecting, you know, in real life with a partner, because they're so used to, you know, masturbating in front of, you know, these porn sites, that they don't know what to do and how to do it. So that is also creating, you know, issues and problems.
Yeah, so when someone has any of these problems, be it video games or social media or just general phone addiction or porn addiction or any of that, what are the first steps that you do with them or that you recommend for them to wean themselves off this stuff?
Well, I think, like, well, there's different camps. Say for instance, video gaming addiction, when it comes to MMORPG, role-playing strategy games, that could actually become an addiction in a medical term. When we talk about, you know, mobile phones, the internet, you know, our usage, it's more of, I think we can at least call it a digital, you know, stress, digital stress. And basically, in those terms, I think we should look at moderation, like focus on the week. What can we do? I mean, we give some tips about leaving the mobile phone outside the bedroom, because the vibrations, the notification can stress us. And even if we put it on flight mode, the first thing when we pick up our phone, you know, when we turn off the alarm clock, we check our mail, we check our social media, and we still lay in bed for an extra half an hour and we come late to work, whatever it is. So for me, I put the phone outside the bedroom. And also, you know, like if you go to a movie, you know, today if you go to a cinema, you see, you know, flashes popping up of every row. And, you know, it's not a flashlight, it's a mobile phone coming up. So people cannot even see a full film for the whole length, because of they want to see if there's something new that is happening. So I think, like, if you're going to a dinner or going out sometimes, just try, you know, to leave the phone at home. And also we have a thing called the Mobile Pal. It's an exercise. So if you're out having dinner, if you're at a coffee shop, you all take up your phone, you put it in the middle of the table with the display down, and the first one that picks up the phone has to pay for the whole tab. And if you all can leave the phones when the whole dinner is ended, you only have to pay for your own bill.
Yeah, so I love that one. So I have a lot of dinner parties at my house now. I don't charge people to come here and have dinner, but I usually make a point of, you know, I make sure I'm not going to look at my phone during dinner or when I have guests over. And I think generally, if you're the host, you can sort of set the rhythm with that, and people won't do it. They kind of look to the leader. Oh, he hasn't looked at his phone, I'm not going to do it. But what I notice all the time is that if I have people over, you know, we start at 6 o'clock, we're having drinks, we have dinner at 8, now it's rolled into 10 o'clock or so. Once one person breaks the seal, everyone immediately does it. It's as if we were all looking for permission to do it. and in a way, that shows you the power of groupthink, too, that if we're all feeling this, and I think a lot of
Yes.
people are. A lot of people are feeling just this constant inundation of this stuff, that we can kind of fight it together too, but when one of us screws up, it kind of drags the rest of us down too.
It is true. It is true. So basically, some rules could be good. I mean, definitely at dinner tables or when you're sitting together, why having the phones? I mean, come on. It just doesn't make any sense. So that is what I stand for. That is my personal belief. But of course, when we look at the clients that are struggling, it's because of the obsessive behavior that they cannot stop. And if they are running out of batteries, they get, they're freaking out. They're totally freaking out. They're like screaming and having attacks. And we have to look at the issues and the core of it, and to help them through therapy to change their behaviors, to find a balance, because I think we cannot live without technology. Today it's impossible. So we have to adapt and have to have a moderation so we can have physical contact, and also to allow ourselves to be bored. Because being bored is a gift. I mean, call it meditation, mindfulness, or being just bored. Even Einstein said that he wouldn't come up with half of the things he did if he didn't allow himself to be bored. So I think, even Steve Jobs was a practitioner meditator. He did meditation every day. And he was the guy who actually, revolutionized this multi-touch technology. But what many doesn't know, that he was a low-tech savvy guy, and he didn't even allow his own kids to use his own technology at dinner tables. They had rules. And also the Google founder or the Amazon founder and Wikipedia founder, they're placing their kids into Montessori and Waldorf schools, which has none technology, or at least very little. So that is a very interesting question. How come?
Yeah, it's interesting. I have a young niece who's about 3 years old, who's in a Montessori school. And when I play with her, if we play with a physical item where she has to move things and slide things and sounds and push buttons and all that, seems so much richer to me. I mean, it feels kind of cliche even to say it, but it feels so much richer and more authentic than the few times where I've shown her my iPad and she'll be clicking on, just swiping or whatever, and it doesn't feel real. It actually, there's something that just the feeling to it is different.
I know. So that is very important. I mean, of course. Okay, so look at the American, pediatrics. There are 10,000 doctors that give recommendations. So they before said 0 to 3 years, no technology. Now they're being more liberal. So it's from 0 to 18 months. And then from 18 months, from 0 to 18 months, no technology. 18 to 3, 1 hour. And that 1 hour you should do with your parents, so you can discuss the content in itself. And it's not apps that it's about, playing games or, seeing the latest Walt Disney film. It's about, content that actually stimulates the language and the words in itself. So many people doesn't know that, because it's become a digital babysitter. And I think it's really important that, parents actually take the responsibility, because we have to ask ourselves, is a quiet child a good child? I don't think so. They need to nag and argue, and parent has to take that, because if you're going to give them an iPad, they're going to be quiet for 6 hours in a row. And try to take that iPad away from them.
It's so ironic, because there's a catch-22 of technology here, that sometimes I'll be with friends of mine who have young kids, and because they just want a little silence, they'll hand them the iPad. Like, it's become what I guess maybe a security blanket used to be or something, because they just want a little bit of quiet. But I'm curious, my audience knows I've done a couple of these digital shutdowns, and I think that's how you came across me, because you saw a video where I had, at one point I did a 10-day thing where I literally locked my phone in a safe, and I did not know the code, and I was in Mexico, and it was wonderful. But I described, have you heard about this, where I actually felt after, the first day I kept reflexively going to my pocket and realizing my phone wasn't there, and there's, a certain amount of anxiousness. Day 2, day 3, it gets easier. By day 4, I was pretty much in bliss, and I worked on some mindfulness and meditation and things like that.
That's
but
good.
I actually felt something physical in my brain, not just something mental. I felt like there was some stuff kind of whirring around again. Is that just purely my imagination?
No, actually, there's new things that is popping up because of the advancement of technology, and that thing that you're feeling is called the phantom vibration syndrome. So basically, if you're feeling something vibrating or hearing SMS sounds or things like that, and you don't have your phone in your pocket, but it's still vibrating, that is something that is called the phantom vibration syndrome. So it's it's new things that we're feeling because the technology is so important to us.
Yeah.
And also,
so I know most of us have felt the phantom vibration, but I'm not kidding. I mean, by day 5, I felt something sort of positive, is what I'm saying. I almost felt like
you mean with the brain? Or?
Yeah, that my brain, I actually felt something like in my head, like it was like resetting a little bit or something.
Yeah.
Is anything on that?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of studies doing, I mean, because things are coming so rapidly and we have the virtual reality world ahead of us. And so, but the brain thing probably because, we're getting dopamine rushes all the time. We're getting small doses. Of course, not the same thing. If you take cocaine, for instance, you're going to get 1,000% of release of dopamine. So that is a high for sure, right? And if you take alcohol, you're going to get approximately 600%. Sexual orgasm, maybe 350. And then, some activities based on, our devices will get maybe 200 to 250. So these kind of rushes and all these information stimulants that we're getting is logically that if we're absent of that, things will happen in our bodies as well, like your experience. I don't know if that's the case, but
You should probably be studying me, or you should probably send me to a clinic or something to see what's going on up in my brain. So for somebody that's really addicted, now I get what you're saying. You're making a distinction between, I guess, video games and porn versus just the general anxiety of the devices. But for somebody that's really suffering from the addiction, that wanted to get help, how quickly do you find that people can actually rehabilitate themselves? Like, I live in LA here, not far from Malibu, where I see these things all the time, these celebrity addiction centers, and they say if you go away for a week and you spend a week at the beach, and get a massage, it sounds like you'll be better. I suspect it's not quite that easy.
Well, it's not, but I mean, it depends. If you have a treatment center which you have to sleep over, I don't like these kind of complexes because it's very short time. I think it's good to have an open treatment center which you come maybe twice a week. So you sleep at home, you go to work, everything, and you come maybe once or twice a week. And we have 12 weeks programs. We have even 6 weeks programs. So sometimes a client could be, we had one client that was so absorbed by his mobile phone. We call it a mobile zombie because they don't have any clue about their surroundings because they're only using 1/4 of their sight. So he was at the subway station and he was fiddling with his mobile phone like a zombie. And he was, tripping down the railway tracks, and it was 2 minutes about the train about to come, and he actually pulled up and he was freaked out because he then realized he was so addicted to his mobile phone. So he called us and we gave him some coaching therapeutical strategies to kind of manage. So it's like time management, like simple time management's like, okay, how does a day look like? When do you pick up your phone? How many times do you do it? There are even apps that can check how many times you pick up the phone or how many hours you're online. So you can, you can map it out. So you can do some sort of a mind map. And then based on that, you go in and you find replacement techniques. So maybe you need to train more or go out more and leave the phone home more and different things that is suitable for that individual. And of course every case is different. So that is more for the technology thing. When it comes to video gaming, then we have to work with the whole family system as well as the parents. So it's not, because the parents are at blame as well. They have lost their control if a kid is playing 16 or 17 hours a day. So they have to find some structure, some rules, some settings. So we coach them to get back their parenthood, and we do therapeutical stuff with the kid for them to realize, you know, the balance is good. Not taking away the games, for sure not, because it's good. It's like a culture today, just like movies and music, but in moderation.
So in that regard, is the recovery, so to speak, is that different than something like alcoholism? Because I think traditionally, when people are addicted to alcoholism and when they're alcoholics, the traditional way of thinking is that you're never going to touch alcohol again, but you don't buy that in this regard.
Well, for me, just take me for an example. I'm actually a recovered alcoholic as well. So I've been sober for 13 years. So I have what they call a cross addiction. So I have the substance-based and I have the behavior-based, which is the video games. And both were an escape of my feelings based on old stuff, which I don't have anymore. I've been doing therapy. But based on that, that was an escape into the virtual world. And based on that, it was an escape into the alcohol world. So, of course, like I said, you can abuse food, but you cannot, you can be a food addict, but you cannot live without food. You have to find a proper way to eat food. And it's the same thing with technology. I think we cannot, disconnect us from technology. It's maybe to find a proper way to look at it. And like I said previously, I mean, the DSM, the psychiatric manual, you have the narcotics, the alcoholism, and even, poker, casino, that type of gambling is now an addiction. And it's actually the first of its kind. Why? Because it's behavioral based. It's not substance that you take from outside into your body. So just let me clarify that, because it's easy to take alcohol or drugs and then you change your biological things in the body that makes you high. But if you're, say for instance, in a casino, so just imagine, before I go into the casino, that I have a chewing machine, right? I put in a quarter, I pull the handle, I get out a chewing ball. So it's not a surprise, right? But if I put down the quarter, I turn the handle, I turn it, and I get 2 chewing balls. Now that's a surprise, right? So that is an unexpected surprise that goes straight to my reward center and then releases the dopamine rush through my body that makes me feel good. So if you go into the casino, the Las Vegas world, it's the same principle. So just imagine you're in front of the slot machines and you get 4 cherries. So what happens to the machine? Is it quiet? No.
It goes crazy.
No. It goes crazy. The sounds, the lights, everything to stimulate your senses, and also money falling down to a metal platter. Do you think that metal platter is there for a coincidence?
You're saying it has something to do with the sound.
Yes. So it's just a lot of sound, and that stimulates the reward center. And it's the same thing about the video games, and it's the same thing about when we get an SMS, when we get the email sound, and also the unexpected things that is happening on social media. Come on, I posted a picture 30 minutes ago. I got to see who liked it. I got to see how many comments I have. I got to see how many subscribers on Rubin Report I have.
I've never checked that. I have no idea what's going on there.
So it's like this unexpected behavior that drives us, and that is the dopamine drive. So of course, the gambling is an official psychiatric status today. So that is becoming more closer to the video gaming because it's behavioral based. But when it comes to technology and mobile phones, we're not talking about addiction in the medical term. More, digital stress, like find a way that you can enjoy life in real life, and also, enjoy technology.
Yeah, it's funny, related to that, about enjoying life. I find that even if I go to a music concert, I was at a Fleetwood Mac concert maybe a year and a half ago, and I love Fleetwood Mac, and there are all these people that instead of watching Stevie Nicks right in front of them, they're standing there recording the whole thing as if they're ever going to watch it and it's going to ever look any better than it does literally right in front of them. And this sort of disconnect between what's happening right now, just so that either you can get likes or you can somehow live the experience again, even though 99% of the stuff we probably never even look at.
That's crazy, but it's actually so true. I mean, how many times do you actually go into a library and look at videos or pictures? And then I always say that I want to take a mental picture, and it goes something like this. You just blink your eyes. That's a full-on live mental picture. And I think that's really important for us to have, like, a real experience. Of course, if you want to take a picture, take the goddamn picture, but then put it away and then enjoy what is happening.
Yeah. Do you know that one time, about a month ago, I had a meal without taking a picture of it?
Oh, really?
Isn't that incredible? Isn't that incredible? It didn't taste as good. Did not did not taste as good. Do you think that we're, in a way, so people like you that are getting this information out there, and that there's a certain subset of people that hear this, that are fighting the addictions, or that are trying to control this, or using mindfulness, all of those things, but that in a way this is so big that, and it's affecting so many of us, that as opposed to people weaning off of it, we're going to ultimately have like a real movement against it. Like, I could see a real anti-technological movement arising where people just want nothing to do with it at all. And I think you see a little bit of that bubbling up right now. People that are very proud to say they don't have a phone, or, right now you hear people say, I don't have TV anymore. Now they're stuck on their phones all the time. But do you think that we might get that? Because for that middle group that might be able to manage it, most people actually probably can't.
Yeah, I totally can see that, because people going back to old Nokia phones that they don't have any displays, and it's kind of like a cool thing to go around with. So I definitely think it's going to be more like a hip kind of cool kind of thing that is growing for sure. But then again, on the other side, we have the virtual reality that is now becoming more emerged into us. So I think we're going to have two big camps. That is, one is going to fight against it, and one is going to, want to preserve it. And, like everything, it's a debate. We can discuss it. But I think, like I said, we have so much positive things with technology, but also we have to minimize the risk that we're seeing, the sleeping problems, the focus, the concentration, the multitasking, the car accidents of not being present, and also the being just here, and connecting with other people.
Yeah, and then it's so interesting because the way technology works, you mentioned something like car accidents, and again, I'm here in LA, where it's a big driver's city, and I see people literally in the left-hand turn lane waiting for the light to turn yellow, and they're on their phone. But then at the same time, technology comes along, and now we have Teslas that ultimately will be self-driving, and Uber's going to get a whole bunch of self-driving cars. And then what are we going to do? We're going to be on our phones in our robot cars doing all this. So we're fighting technology on two fronts in a way, and yet we all love it at the same time.
That's right. I mean, even in China, there are lanes, like streets with the mobile phone sign. So if there's the sign with this, you can go walking with your mobile phones. And there are even discussions in few countries to have the lights on the ground instead of having it upside, because you're always looking down at the phone anyway. So why not having the lights on the ground?
Yeah, and people have neck problems and back problems and hand problems, right? Isn't that a new thing now too?
Yeah, it's the carpal syndrome, the nerve damage you can have by having the same repeated, pressure. But basically it's not a culture thing. It's about to become a medical thing. So it's like two things. So we have to look at, the culture thing. A lot of old people say, oh, why aren't you not connected with, real life? And they're complaining. I had, some parents coming up to me say, listen, my son is video gaming addict. Oh, really? So how many hours does it play? Like 2 hours at least a day.
Right.
And it's like, come on, we're living in 2017. We have technology. It's a way of living. Things are changing. You cannot, you cannot change that. But then again, the young kids has also a challenge. They need to learn how to be bored. They need to learn how to, life is not always, happy and fast rewards. You have to have that tolerance, patience to learn that as well. It's not like a video game, just press enter and then you pop up again,
Yeah, and it's so interesting, the concept of what is old and how quickly it becomes old. So even, 10 years ago, before everyone had a phone all the time, if you were meeting a friend at a restaurant, you might have to wait on the corner and stand there for a moment and not look at, and just look at people or look at the street or something like that. Or the other one that I think people really take for granted now is that it wasn't that long ago, certainly in our lifetime, that you would, so the phone would ring and it was at your house, so it was a landline, and you didn't know who was on the other end. Anybody, it could be it could be the president, it could be a stalker, your grandma. You had no idea, but that little thing where now even we know who's calling, we know who to send to voicemail, we know who to text, all of this stuff, it does kind of make you nostalgic for a little bit of simplicity.
That's right. And I mean, back in the days, it could even call on the phone and you didn't even have to answer it. It was no need to even answer the phone. So of course, I mean, a lot of things are changing. We are learning less things and we are advancing in different areas as well. So, yeah.
All right. Well, before we sound too much like two old guys making fun of the kids and all their technology, for people that wanna find you and either get coaching through you or have you help them point them in the right direction, where's the best place for them to go?
Well, we have a site. It's very strange to kind of pronounce it because it's actually in Swedish. So, but we do.
I did it on Google Translate. It worked beautifully, actually. Yeah.
So internetakuten.com. Well, I don't know if you can post it on your site or anything, but we do do sessions and talks as well in English for sure. If somebody's interested. So,
well, right down below, we'll post the link to that. And as I said, I just put it in Google Translate and it worked out perfectly. And we'll also put a link to your TED Talk, which is how I found out about you. And for more on Patrik, but you're going to have to put this in Google Translate as well, unless you speak Swedish, it's Patrik with no C, Patrik, Wincent, Wincet.se. And Patrik, it was a pleasure talking to you, and I hope we can do this in person sometime without this technology between us.